17th day of Bhagavad Gita. Good morning to all of you. Today's 17th day, page number 366 and verses 27 to 28. Let's get started. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils and thus controlling the mind, senses and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming and liberation becomes free from desire, fear and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. Being engaged in Christian consciousness, one can immediately understand one's spiritual identity, and then one can understand the Supreme Lord by means of devotional service. When one is well situated in devotional service, one comes to the transcendental position, qualified to feel the presence of the Lord in the sphere of one's activity. This particular position is called liberation in the Supreme. After explaining the above principles of liberation in the Supreme, the Lord gives instruction to Arjuna as to how one can come to that position by the practice of the mysticism or yoga known as Ashtanga Yoga, which is divisible. The practice of the mysticism or yoga known, which is divisible into an eightfold procedure called Yama, Yam, Asan, Pranayam, etc. In the 6th chapter, the subject of yoga is explicitly detailed, and at the end of 5th, it is only preliminarily explained. One has to drive out the sense objects such as sound, touch, from taste and smell by the process in yoga, and then keep the vision of the eyes between the two eyebrows and concentrate on the tip of the nose with half closed lids. There is no benefit in closing the eyes altogether, because then there is every chance of falling asleep. Nor is the benefit is opening the eyes completely, because then there is the hazard of being attracted by sense objects. The breathing movement is restrained within the nostril by neutralizing the up moving and down moving air within the body. By practice of such yoga, one is able to gain control over the senses, refrain from outward sense objects, and thus prepare oneself for liberation in the Supreme. This yoga process helps one become free from all kinds of fear and anger, and thus feel the presence of the Super Soul in the transcendental situation. In other words, Christian consciousness is the easiest process of executing yoga principles. This will be thoroughly explained in the next chapter. A Christian conscious person, however, being always engaged in devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. This is a better way of controlling the sense than by the Ashtangan yoga. 29th verse. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. The conditioned souls within the clutches of illusory energy are all anxious to attain peace in the material world, but they do not know the formula for peace, which is explained in this part of Bhagavad Gita. The greatest peace formula is simply this: Lord Krishna is the beneficiary in all human activities. Man should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord, because He is the proprietor of all planets and the demigods they own. No one is greater than He. He is greater than the greatest of the demigods, Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma in the Veds. The Supreme Lord is described as under the spell of illusion. Living entities are trying to be lords of all this survey, but actually they are dominated by the material angry of the Lord. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditioned souls are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. This is the sense of Christian consciousness. Lord Krishna, the supreme predominator and all living entities, including the great demigods, are His subordinates. One can attain perfect peace only in complete Christian consciousness. The fifth chapter is a practical explanation of Christian consciousness, generally known as Karma Yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how Karma Yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Christian consciousness is to work with the complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Christian consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Christian consciousness means to work in full knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Absolute, and the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God as His fragmental part and parcel. He comes into the contact with Maya, illusion, due to the desire to lord it over Maya, and that is a cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Christian consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life even while one is within the jurisdiction of matter, for it is an arousing arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is freed from the clutches of matter. The Lord is not partial toward anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in Christian consciousness, which helps one control the senses in every respect and control the influence of desire and anger, and one who stands fast in Christian consciousness, controlling the above mentioned passions remains factually in the transcendental stage or term Nirvana. The Eightfold Yoga mysticism is automatically practiced in Christian consciousness because the ultimate purpose is served. There is a gradual process of elevation in the practice of niyam, but these only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can award peace to the human being. It is the highest perfection of life. Thus, and the Bhakti Vedanta purports to the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of Karma Yoga or action in Christian consciousness. Chapter is 6th, Dhyan Yoga. Verses 1st. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of God had said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is a true mystic. Note, he who lights no fire and performs no duty. In this chapter, the Lord explains that the process of the Eightfold Yoga system is a means to control the mind and the senses. However, this is very difficult for people in general to perform, especially in the age of Kali. Although the Eightfold Yoga system is recommended in this chapter, the Lord emphasizes that the process of Karma Yoga or acting in Christian consciousness is better. Everyone acts in this world to maintain his family and their paraphernalia, but no one is working without some self-interest, some personal gratification, be it considered or extended criterion of perfection is to act in Christian consciousness and not with a view to enjoying the fruits of work. To act in Christian consciousness is the duty of every living entity because all are constitutionally parts and parcels of the Supreme. The parts of the body work for the satisfaction of the whole body. The limbs of the body do not act for self-satisfaction but for the satisfaction of the complete whole. Similarly, the living entity who acts for satisfaction of the supreme whole and not for personal satisfaction is the perfect sannyasi, the perfect yogi. The sannyasis sometimes artificially think that they have become liberated from all material duties and therefore they cease to perform Agnihotra yojanas, fire sacrifices, but actually they are self-interested because their goal is to become one with the impersonal Brahman. Such a desire is greater than any material desire, but it is not without self-interest. Similarly, the mystic yogi who practices the yoga system with half open eyes, seizing all material activities, desires some satisfaction for his personal self, but a person acting in Krishna consciousness works for all satisfaction of the whole without self-interest. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for self-satisfaction. His criterion 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 of success is the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus he is a perfect sannyasi or perfect yogi. Lord Chaitanya, the highest perfectional symbol of renunciation, prays in this way: O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth nor to enjoy beautiful women, nor do I want any number of flowers. What I want only is the causeless mercy of your devotional service in my life, birth after birth. Verse 2. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. Real sannyas, yoga, or bhakti means that one should know his constitutional position as the living entity and act accordingly. The living entity has no separate, independent identity. He is a marginal energy of the Supreme. When he is entrapped by material energy, he is conditioned, and when he is Krishna conscious or aware of the spiritual energy, then he is in his real and natural state of life. Therefore, when one is in complete knowledge, one ceases all material sense gratification or renounces all kind of sense gratificatory activities. This is practiced by the yogis who restrain the senses from material attachment. But a person in Krishna consciousness has no opportunity to engage his senses in anything which is not for the purpose of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna conscious person is simultaneously a sannyasi and a yogi. The purpose of knowledge and of restraining the senses as prescribed in the jnana and yoga process is automatically served in Krishna consciousness. If one is unable to give up the activities of his selfish nature, then jnana and yoga are of no avail. The real aim is for a living entity to give up all selfish satisfaction and not to be prepared to satisfy the Supreme. A Krishna conscious person has no desire for any kind of self-enjoyment. He is always engaged for the enjoyment of the Supreme, one who has no information of the Supreme must therefore be engaged in self satisfaction because no one can stand on the platform of inactivity. All purposes are perfectly served by the practice of Christian consciousness. Verse is third. For one who is neophyte in the eightfold yoke system, work is said to be the means, and for one who is already elevated in yoke, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. The process of linking oneself with the Supreme is called yoga. It may be compared to a ladder for attaining the topmost spiritual realization. This ladder begins from the lowest material condition of the living entity and rises up to perfect self-realization in pure spiritual life. According to various elevation, different parts of the ladder are known by different names, but all in all, the complete ladder is called yoga and may be divided into three parts, namely Janan Yoga, Dhyan Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. The beginning of the ladder is called the Yoga Aruksho stage, and the highest rung is called Yoga Arudha. Considering the eightfold yoga system attempts in the beginning to enter into meditation through regulative principles of life and practice of different sitting postures, which are more or less bodily exercise, are considered. Fruitive material activities or such activities lead to achieving perfect mental equilibrium to control the senses. When one is accomplished in the practice of meditation, he ceases all disturbing mental activities. A Christian conscious person, however, is situated from the beginning on the platform of meditation because he always thinks of Krishna and being constantly engaged in the service of Krishna. He is considered to have ceased all material activities. Verses 4th. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when, having renounced all material desires, he neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. When a person is fully engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he is pleased in himself, and thus he is no longer engaged in sense gratification or in fruitive activities. Otherwise, one must be engaged in sense gratification, since one cannot believe without engagement. Without Christian consciousness, one must be always seeking self-centered or extent selfish activities, but a Christian conscious person can do everything for the satisfaction of Krishna and thereby be perfectly detached from sense gratification. One who has no such realization must mechanically try to escape material desires before being elevated to the top rung of the yoke ladder. Verse is 5th. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. The word Atma denotes body, mind and soul depending upon different circumstances in the yoga system. The mind and the conditioned soul are especially important since the mind is the central point of yoga practice. Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience in material existence. One is subjected to the influence of the mind and the sense. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the force of ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature. And in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. The more one is attracted by sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind is Krishna consciousness. The word high is used for emphasizing this point that one must do this. It is also said from mind is the cause of bondage and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind observed in sense objects is a cause of bondage and mind detached from the sense objects is a cause of liberation. Therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. Verse is 6th. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictation of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. Verses 7th. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached from he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one should be considered to have already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma or Super Soul, because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness. The devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, namely distress and happiness, cold and heat, etc. This state is practical samadhi or absorption in the Supreme. Verses 8. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi. Mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-control. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones or coal, as the same. Book knowledge without realization of the Supreme Truth is useless. This is stated as follows. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality and pastimes of Shri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses only when one becomes spiritual saturated by transcendental service of the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality and pastimes of the Lord revealed of him. This Bhagavad Gita is a science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. A Krishna conscious person has released knowledge by the grace of Krishna, because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions, but by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled, because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of own greater value than pebbles or stones. Verses 9th. A person is considered still further advanced when he regards honest well-wishers, affectionate benefactors, the neutral mediators, the envious, friends and enemies, the pious and the sinners, all with an equal might versus strength. A trans a trans transcendentalist should always engage his body, mind and self in relationship with the Supreme. He should live he should live alone in a casual place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Christian is realized in different degrees as Brahman, Brahmatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Christian consciousness means consciously to be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. But those who are attached to the impersonal Brahman or the localized super soul are also partially Krishna conscious, because impersonal Brahman is the spiritual ray of Krishna and super soul is the all pervading partial expansion of Krishna. Thus the impersonalist and the meditator are also indirectly Krishna conscious. A directly Krishna conscious person is the topmost transcendentalist, because such a devotee knows what is meant by Brahman and Paramatma. His knowledge of the absolute truth is perfect, whereas the impersonalist and the meditative yogi are imperfectly Krishna conscious. Nevertheless, all of these are instructed herewith to be constantly engaged in their particular pursuits so that they may come to the highest perfection sooner or later. The first premise of a transcendentalist is to keep the mind always on Krishna. One should always think of Krishna and not forget him, even for a moment. Concentration of the mind on the Supreme is called Samadhi or trance. In order to concentrate the mind, one should always remain in seclusion and avoid disturbance by external objects. He should be very careful to accept favorable and reject unfavorable conditions that affect his realization, and in perfect determination he should not hanker after unnecessary material things that entangle him by feelings of possessiveness. All these perfections and precautions are perfectly executed when one is directly in Krishna consciousness, because directly Krishna consciousness means self abnegation, wherein there is very little chance for material possessiveness. Srila Rupa Goswami characterized Krishna consciousness in this way: when one is not attached to anything but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. A Krishna conscious person will knows that everything belongs to Krishna, and thus he is always free from feelings of personal possession. As such, he has no hankering for anything on his own personal account. He knows how to accept things in favor of Christian consciousness and how to reject things unfavorable to Christian consciousness. He is always aloof from material things because he is always transcendental, and he is always alone, having nothing to do with persons not in Christian consciousness. Therefore, a person in Christian consciousness is the perfect yogi. Verse is 11 to 12. The practice yoga, one should go to a scheduled place and should lay kush grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should that sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Sacred place refers to the places of pilgrimage in India. The yogis, the transcendentalists or the devotees all leave home and reside in sacred places such as Pragya, Mathura, Vrindavan, Rishikesh, Haridwar, and in solitude practice yoga where the sacred rivers like the Yamuna and the Ganga flow, but often this is not possible, especially for Westerners. The so-called yoga societies in big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they are not at all suitable for the actual practice of yoga. One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. Therefore, in the Brahan Nardya Puran, it is said that in Kali Yuga, the present yoga or age, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is chanting the holy name of the Lord. In the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. Verse 13 to 14. One should hold one's body, neck and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me ultimate goal of life. The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living beings as Paramatma. The four-handed Vishnu form the yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this. Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Krishna is the ultimate call of life, and the Vishnu Murti situated in one's heart is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a sheltered place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attain a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification. Of which sex life is a chief in the rules of celibacy written by the great sage Yajna Valkya. It is said the vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words and mind at all times, under all circumstances and in all places. No one can perform correct yoga practices though sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught therefore from childhood, when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukula or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharyas. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it be dhyan, janan or bhakti, or one, however, follows the rules and regulations of married life, having a sexual relationship only with his life, and that also under regulation is also called a brahmacharya. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the janan and dhyan schools do not even admit householders. Brahmacharya, they require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmacharya is allowed to control sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of superior taste. other than the devotee. No one can only has any information of that superior taste. We could we one cannot be fearless unless one is fully in Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam says, Vyam. Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious, and since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, a Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of the yoga system mentioned herein are different from those of the popular so-called yoga societies. Verse is 15th. Spiritual sky, the kingdom of the God. Adhigachati, does attain. Adhigachati means does attain. Okay. Thus practicing constant control of the body, mind and activities, the mystery transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God. Abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. The ultimate goal in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is not to enable to It is to enable the cessation of all material existence. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi according to Bhagavad Gita, nor does cessation of material existence until once entering into the void, which is only a myth. There is no void anywhere within the creation of the Lord. Rather, the session of material existence enables one to enter into the spiritual sky, the abode of the Lord. The abode of the Lord is also clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita as that place where there is no need of sun, moon or electricity. All the planets in the spiritual kingdom are self-illuminated like the sun in the material sky. The kingdom of God is Dhram or superior abodes. A consummate yogi who is perfect in understanding Lord Krishna as is clearly stated herein by the Lord himself, can attain real place and can ultimate reach his supreme abode, Krishnalok, known as Golaka Vrindavan, is the Brahma Brahman Samit. It is clearly stated Golaka Eva Golaka. The Lord, although residing always in his abode called Golaka, is the all-prevailing Brahman and localized Paramatma, as well as by dint of his superior spiritual energies. No. One can reach the spiritual sky, Vaikuntha, or enter into the Lord's eternal abode, Golaka Vrindavan, without the proper understanding of Krishna and his planetary explanation. Vishnu, therefore, person working in Krishna consciousness is a perfect yogi because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna activities. In the Veds also, we learn them ones can overcome the path of birth and death only by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna, in other words, perfection of the yoga system is the attainment of freedom from material existence and not some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats of fool innocent people. Thank you so much. Thank you.